is the time. Now, Brett McMurphy, Action HQ Network, covers college football, put this out, a couple of different tweets. He did not do the research, or he's not the one, but he's quoting Colin, who might be joining this show on Friday. He was on his way on a vacation, spoke with him by text, if I can say that, communicated with him by text, and probably available on Friday after vacation. Here are the teams based on @_Colin1, who works for Action Network HQ, who are going to be favored in the amount of games to the left. There's no surprise here. Alabama, Georgia, Louisville?
In 12 games?
Michigan and Washington. All right? Now, Jeff Brom's pretty good, but that means he's ahead of at least some of these teams I'm about to mention with 11. Clemson, Florida State. Florida State is at Clemson, is projected as a pick'em. Then you have Liberty, North Carolina, Ohio State, Oklahoma 11. Texas, South Alabama, Toledo, Tulane, Utah, and Wisconsin will be favored, at least projected at this particular time, as favored in 11 of their games.
Okay, looking at Louisville's schedule, other than, Notre Dame is at home, and it's in the middle of the season, so maybe by that time, if Louisville's on a roll, I can see.
Are they playing Clemson and Florida State?
They are not.
Okay.
They are not.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Now, go to 10. This one, to me, jumped out at me and grabbed me by the nostril hairs. Not Air Force, Baylor. That's not what I think, but again, I'm not the guy looking at the odds and the trends and the data and all that. Boise State, Coastal Carolina, Maryland, Navy, Ole Miss, Oregon, Troy, and Western Kentucky. Can you guys see, which means other than Oklahoma and maybe Texas, I would think that Baylor would be favored against everybody else on their schedule?
Absolutely not.
No. Look, if they're...
They don't know how to beat TCU, so there's one.
Well, Texas, they're not going to be... If you just go by this, you would assume that Texas is one of the games. He's not going to have them...
No, Texas and OU. No, they don't play Oklahoma, so Texas is one. Yeah.
But 2 weeks later, they play Texas Tech. Now, that game's at home. I don't think they'll be favored in that game.
I don't know.
We just gotta let Texas Tech win some games first. We really do. I respect Joey McGuire. I respect the build, and I know what that looks like when it starts to really get to a certain point. But we just can't start having them just be favorites automatically over teams.
Kim Coulter, you hearing that? Because Kim's kind of using that us against the world mentality that there's no way we can win because everyone's expecting them to be a lot better.
Okay, but they're at Kansas State, so that would probably be one of the two that he had. And then at TCU, a place that, But
then there's only three. There's only two games.
They play Utah in week 2.
There you go.
I don't even know that they're going to be favored in that game, and it's in Waco. But I don't know that, but this is as of right now. So if as of right now, if people feel like they're going to be favored in those games, I think that's a hell of a compliment because I wouldn't have them favored against TCU. I wouldn't have them favored against Utah. I wouldn't have them favored against Kansas State. I might not have them favored against Texas Tech
or Texas.
I would not have them favored against Texas. Yeah. So I'm definitely. I don't understand where that's coming from, but they play 8 home games. I think people just assume they're going to be better because they were so just lost last year. But yeah, I think 10 is a bit too much for me to go with.
I'm not assuming anything other than the fact it means that most likely Utah and Texas are the teams because of who they are above them with 11 of those games.
And I do think Texas Tech's going to be good. And I do think that they will probably use that chip on the shoulder. People don't believe in us, even though they're getting all of the attention this offseason. I just think, can we let them do it, though? Because we got, they're just, they'll beat Baylor, and then they're going to beat, and it's just let's see them play a little bit first. But I do agree that they should be very good.
If they get the win against Oregon early, then all bets are off. And Kim, who thinks Texas Tech is going to be very, very good, has kind of taken on, am I right, Kim? Our friend from Arizona, great friend of the show, that, no, man, they can't win anything. Now it's almost as if they're getting so much attention, you get a little nervous with that. Although, if you're a Texas Tech fan, this is what you've been wanting, is that kind of attention. So those are the ones most likely favored in the certain amount of games with the list at the top, other than Louisville, and then you explain that they're not playing Clemson or Florida State. they have Notre Dame at the top along with that other group.
And there's Texas Tech favored to win 9 games.
Yep.
I mean, 9-3 would be a game more than last year, right? And they finished like 8-5. So that'd be a
nice bump.
Game gained. And winning 9 games in year 2 of Joey McGuire would be a really big deal. We had 17 wins over 2 years. I mean, that'd be huge. But yeah, I feel like, I mean, kind of to Kim's point, it's not a knock on them. It's like just let them earn it, though, and like don't over hyperventilate the hype machine before we even get to kickoff time. But if they start off and they beat Oregon in Lubbock and they start off 3-0, 4-0 or whatever, and they get, I mean, I've said all along that I think they're going to be in that upper tier, and I don't know that everybody agrees with that necessarily, but I think the majority of people do. So yeah, I believe that the hype is worth it. We just need to kind of chill out a little bit on it and let them, show why they got that hype to begin with.
All right, now go to the opposite way. And if I had the money and if there's I figure out where this is, I'm going to go straight to the third row. Oklahoma State would be underdogs in 10 of their 12 games. I don't care what people may think about last year and how it worked in the transition or the attrition or the struggles or whatever, and how I will, if I can, find this link and I will put something on it that they would be underdogs 10 times out of 12.
That doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't.
That's
it doesn't make any sense.
That's just like a slap in the face to history of what Gundy's done at Oklahoma State.
I can pull up their schedule and
I'm looking at it right now as well.
I mean, so that means they're not favored against. Okay, so they're going to be favored against South Alabama and Central Arkansas. So you're telling me that every other game they're not favored in. So they're not favored at Arizona State. Well, that's the Kenny Dillingham effect, I guess. Ames, okay. Well, you never know there. Hosting K-State, okay. Hosting Kansas, okay. At West Virginia, they're not going to be favored just because Morgantown rep, the rep that Morgantown has, I guess. Hosting Cincinnati, they're not going to be favored. I mean, come on now. Okay, I'll give you Morgantown. I'll give you Ames, but not even favored over Cincinnati in Stillwater?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, okay, he's going to be on, and so you guys can follow up with this on where he's getting this information based on analytics or whatever, or based on his trends and whatever he knows. He will probably be on the show Friday.
I mean, that's great. Good. At Houston, I'm taking Oklahoma State in that game right now. Give me Oklahoma State in that game. Even home against BYU at the end of the – so, yeah, that's weird. I would not have them as 10-game underdogs. I'd maybe like 7 or 8 or something like that. This
is not based on point spreads. That's a different animal. This is based on a power ranking, just like ESPN has one and CBS has one and The Athletic has one and On3 has one. But, hey, that's based on his power ratings, based on where he has teams rated. I'm sure not because he just throws this up against the wall and lets the spaghetti. This is what he thinks. That's how these are based.
Yeah, nobody's knocking his work or anything.
They are.
Oh, well, they are. Okay. Well, I'm not looking at chat. So sometimes you talk and we can't tell who you're directing it to. So if chat's doing that, okay, that's one thing. But yeah, I don't agree on the Oklahoma State. So when we talk to him, we can talk about that because I see at least a handful of games that they should be favored in. But he'll have his reasons and explain it to us, and we'll either come to an agreement or we'll still disagree. But that's the beauty of the whole sports
based
debate
on you're right. And based on my media poll, I think there's a chunk between 3, 4, or 9. Well, I don't know how to make up my mind on the Big 12, and maybe he has some teams ranked higher than we do.
For example, he has Colorado at 11 times, which I can see they'll 9 for sure.
11 times they'll be the underdog.
They'll be underdog.
Oh, I thought you were about to say favorites.
Yeah.
No. I'm about to go in on this. I'm sorry.
No, TCU, Nebraska, Oregon, USC, Arizona State, all those for sure. Stanford, they'll probably be a favorite there. Colorado State, I guess we'll see what happens. I think that one is going to be interesting. That's the third game of the season. But at UCLA, they're not going to be a favorite. Oregon State, not going to be a favorite. So on and so on. So,
well, he'll be on most likely Friday's show to be able to have a chance. From Wet Blanket, please keep doubting. Well, you can talk to Colin on Friday about that. We just backed up why Oklahoma State should not be on that list, at least that many numbers. Coming up next, Phil Bennett.